The state's Department of Public Health and Environment says that they do support incremental steps of reopening, but they wouldn't get into any specifics. They say they're still worried about several factors that could lead to overwhelming of our hospitals. Here's 9 News reporter Katie Eastman.
6 months after the first cases of COVID-19 in Colorado, and the numbers look good. State health leaders look at this graph and see success. We had 2 peaks, one in April and a smaller one in July. Cases have steadily gone down since July, and they're close to plateauing. Hospitalizations had a small increase in mid-July, but even those have gone down by half. Still, there are people who don't believe COVID-19 is an issue, and gatherings like this one last night, where people don't wear masks, worry health officials, especially as Labor Day weekend approaches. Schools are opening, and flu season is about to begin too. The state wonders if all that combined will mean the good numbers take a turn. They can put all the potential outcomes on paper, but they can't predict what people will do. Katie Eastman, 9 News.
We did reach out to the governor's office this afternoon to ask if more restrictions will be relaxed because of the steady decline in cases, but we have not yet received a response.